Hey everyone, I will quickly create some kind of a custom autograder by using Visual Studio Code provided by Coursera. So this is just for my documentation and for anyone who would like to use it in their future projects. So why I'm doing this? Because creating Pythons is provided in easy in Jupyter Lab. Uh, However, creating a .NET project is a little bit tricky, you know. So that's why. But let's start. So I will start with an image first in the lab manager. Then I will create a lab. Then I will create an assignment that's using this lab. So these three are the crucial ingredients, obviously. So let's start and create a new lab environment. I know which tool I want to use. I'm gonna use Visual Studio Code, and I will use the regular one, not with MySQL. Again, you can use MySQL as well. Like it has all the languages in both of them, I guess. So this pre-configured one is where you give your test results and you get responses, mostly good for Pythons or Java. I mean, the languages that's standard, because I can see that there is Java support as well, but um, it's not for .NET, so I will configure it myself. Okay. But that's good because you can also configure to do anything actually in this way. It does not only for .NET projects, you can actually configure to do anything that you can call by using a shell script or bash script. So some name .NET test. So what we are gonna do over here is we're gonna feed the .NET test image with some extra information, and let me quickly get that information. It's basically what's happening over here is there appears to be a .NET SDK in the built-in image, but it's not the latest version first. Also, it's not configured with the .NET SDK comments for some reason, so that's why I needed to reinstall .NET SDK. And then, which is another project probably I will report to Coursera, I need to build at least one project in the image beforehand. Okay? Otherwise, it doesn't build the others. It's creating some kind of a NuGet problem. But anyway, so then once you write this, you create your lab environment, and it will probably take 3 to 5 minutes. So I will pause the video over here and come back when it is done. Alright, so I'm back. It says lab is ready. Obviously, with the extra comments that I passed to the Docker file, it took more than 3, which is like probably 5 or 6 minutes, I guess. But anyway, you can open the lab and play around the lab. It will open some Visual Studio, of course, Visual Studio Code. And I will talk about some of the folders. So, so there's an autograde folder and there's a learn folder. Again, you can design this folder whatever with respect to your goals, obviously, as long as you know the path of all the files, autograders, and everything. It should be good, because then in the assignment we are gonna set these paths and everything. Okay, but technically, you can play with this guy. So let's continue. So the image is created now. There is a .NET comment, uh, and we can also .NET test, which was the problem that I told you about. .NET test was not executing in the built-in image because there was some problem in the configuration. I guess that's why I had to uninstall and reinstall .NET SDK. But now at least .NET test is working. It looks for a solution now, but we will give it a solution. So now let's continue with the lab. I'm gonna shut this down, okay, and close this. So we have .NET Test SDK. Let's refresh this guy. .NET Test SDK, and it builds some kind of an automated default lab, of course. So now let's talk about this lab. In this lab, as we said, there is a folder where you can put the files for the student, and there is a folder for autograding. Okay. Again, technically you can structure a little bit yourself how to position these, but when you see that in the assignment configuration, it starts with some predetermined folder, like it will be home coder project / learn and anything else beyond that, kind of. So basically, maybe work around these folders, like put your autograding scripts here, put the learner resources in here, so it is good. So how to put them? Of course, you need to have some kind of a project in your local, right? So I have this project for myself, like the is prime functionality and testing in .NET. Okay, so you can see that there's a full example, which means all the code is implemented and all the test is implemented as well. Okay, so this is a nicely tested and nicely coded project, which I named is full. Again, you don't have to do that, but you can do it, that's fine. And there is also autograding, which is a shell script. So this is the good part. So technically you can do everything with this autograding. Okay. Well, that means you can run any shell script, any command, and if you can produce the necessary files for Coursera, it will interpret it as autograded, basically. So the necessary files is basically there are two files that's needed by Coursera. The first one is /shared/feedback.json. It's basically the autograder will execute this code, and at the end of the execution it will look for this file, shared feedback.json, and it is a JSON object really with these fields. Okay. They have examples in their web page about it. And if you want to provide some rich feedback as well, like some HTML feedback, which is optional, like this parameter is optional, then you can create also some kind of an HTML file, shared HTML feedback.html, and in it you can put whatever you want, and it will be displayed to the user. And this is basically the score if this part of the code is executed. That means if these two files are generated, they will get the full score. Else, if this is executed, they will get 0 with some feedback, of course. So this is basically the two files. So how do you get the file from the submission, which means the student is working on the lab now, right? You get the file from the submission and then you pass it on to the autograder. It is happening over here. There are, in the configuration of the labs or assignments, there is a field where it says give me the name of the file that the student is going to submit. Here is the name of the file basically, which I will also show you how to create that. Then again, this is my autograding logic. Basically I clone a fresh repository, I copy these guys over there, and then I go into the project and I run this basically .NET command. So okay, let's continue and I will come back. Alright, I'm back. So let's continue with this guy. As I said, this is a project where I was working on, the full project. And the learn part is the part of the project where we provide to the students. It's basically, in this case, for example, I will not give the exact implementation of the code. I will want them to execute it. But they will still see the test. So they can run the test and see it for some part. So their goal is basically to submit this file after implementing it. Okay. So after providing this folder and this folder, what we will do is we will continue on the lab creation. Okay. So lab basically says give me a place to mount these two learn and autograde folders, and I will give the result to you. So we can do it like that. Autograde and learn folder. I will zip these, and as you see, it's all over here. I will zip these so that I can pass it on to the environment, lab environment. So let's continue with this guy now. So we, as I said, we have a lab. Okay, so I will just edit this lab. This prime intro or whatever it is. So here are the mount points. As you see, there's an information over here. It says this will be persisted across user sessions. Required to publish an assignment for submission and grading. This is basically whenever a student started an assignment, they will be given an instance of this image plus the attachments that you did over here, basically. Okay, so I will choose this zip file. And when I save it, it's gonna be appended to this lab. Okay. And the important point over here is, of course, if you do any kind of change to the either the image or the lab, you should publish it. Okay. Of course, it was not published, so it is the initial publish. And from the learner perspective, you can open the lab and see it. But of course, this is still in the setup phase, so you will see the autograder and everything now. Okay. Basically, the zip files that I did is over here. So the learn folder, basically the unimplemented code, and autograde is over here as well. So the learner will not see this, of course. This is in the setup phase. So now what is next is we created an image, we created the lab, we will create the assignment, right? So let's continue with the assignment. I already tested a bunch, of course, but let's add another item, programming assignment. So this prime intro, let's go inside that. Some description, of course. In this lab, we will start using dotnet. This happens sometimes, refreshing this page. Alright, let's refresh this page. I don't know who edits this. In this lab, we do whatever, and it complains it's not if it is not over 100 characters, so I'll put some 100 characters in there. So it is lab, and we will select one of the last image that I created, and we will select the lab that I created. So here is the content path, where it's basically when the learner opened the lab, they will go into this folder. Okay. So in this case, of course, I will set it to be, let's see, the learn folder. Home coder project learn folder, where I have the unimplemented project, right? You can give a name to the button in the lab. Okay, then so this is the grading part. Now this part will auto grade. That means it's gonna execute your shell script. That's why this is like auto grade. So it looks for the scripts under this folder, right? So that's why it's like, don't mess it up too much. I mean, but under auto grade, you can structure it whatever you want, of course. So you can assign partial points at more parts, which is set as an environment variable. So in your code or shell script, you can check that environment variable, whichever part it is. So I'm gonna all assign this to that's fine. But in my case, it was prime service.cs file, which will be their main file that's going to be submitted, and the autograde script will be grade.sh under autograde folder. So when you do these, it should be fine, I guess. Now you can publish this assignment. Initial publish. So now we have this hopefully nicely set up. We can close that. And let's go back to the home page to view this as a learner. So as you see, I've been playing with it quite some time. So is prime intro. This is the lab we just created. In this lab we do whatever. Launch lab. So it will open, this time it's the student view. So they will not see the autograder, but obviously you need to put some kind of description so that they know what they're gonna do, right? So you can either put the description over here or in a readme file over here maybe. So that's up to you. But technically, as you see, it is just they are seeing the learn folder, and you can print working directory to be like this learn folder, and they don't see anything else, so they don't see the autograder. So what they do is they will open this file again. These are the instructions. Hopefully they will try to implement it. So technically they can submit as is, right? So files to be submitted. So submit the assignment, view the grades. So now what's happening here is when you submit, the code is executed basically. This grade file, like this shell script is executed. It's again, in my logic, I'm cloning from the original repository. I copy the file the user submitted to the corresponding place. Then I run the dotnet test command. Then I check with some pattern matching. If failed is 0, that means nothing failed. Else something failed, and here are the results. Okay. So it is my else executed, of course, because it's not implemented, right? So something failed, and here is the result of the command. Something failed, and the result of the command. The result of the command is there are 11 failed tests, which are bad. But let's do this. Let me get the code and submit again. Alright, where is my code? Okay, here's the code. They will write it, of course, right? And when they are ready, they can submit again. And there will be a new instance of Autograder. Again, every time it's gonna be from scratch, obviously. So what else? And as I said, this is a shell script, so you can do anything you want over here. Which in my other anything is like, this is just testing, right? And making sure they implemented this code, so nothing failed. So they get 100% grade. So in this one they get 0%. And this is also I encoded in here, right? In this, if something is failed, they get 0. If nothing is failed, they get 1, which is the whole grade. So they pass this one. What they can do more is this. I was testing, for example, coverage. So if you can run a comment for it, and if you get the result of the comment and try to find whatever in some way, you can also do it in this autograder basically. Okay, and as I said, you can. There might be different parts which come in environment variables, which I didn't use in this example, but you can do it as well. So that's all I can talk about. Let me check if I missed anything. Alright, let me pause the video and come back. Alright, I'm back and I want to do the same for another lab environment. That's testing coverage. So go to lab manager. We already have the image, right? And we can create another lab over here for prime coverage. And this time in my project, what I do is I give the implementation, but I will expect them to implement some tests. So let's check the learner. So this is full tests. So the learner code, there's only one test. So it is just testing one case, which is like some percent of coverage, right? So this is the project, and I'm gonna mount it over here, which I already created the zip, if you remember, so that the autograder will be home coder project autograde. The learner health project will be home coder project learner or learn. So add lab. Again, after doing this, you can publish the lab and open the lab to see if everything is in there, which should be, right? Hopefully. So it is published, and when the online VSCode is opened, we can see the learner resource, the code is implemented. The test is there is just one test which is not giving 100% coverage. So now let's create another programming assignment. And let's edit this. And this assignment something. So let's select the image, let's select the lab, and it will be same, and I didn't do too much change. And this time the file they will submit will be this file. They will be submitting the test file. So it is prime service.test slash this is the name of this file, .cs, and autograder is still in the same place, so grade.sh, and let's publish this guy. So it's published. Let's go back and try it as a learner. Module 1 is prime coverage, launch lab, so again it depends on the instructions that you give it to them, like obviously they can run the test coverage themselves, right? So I will give them the code, obviously, like the command to, so that they can run the coverage and get the report in the lab without submission, right? So this is what they're gonna learn in this part. So technically they can run this and try to get some kind of a coverage report without even implementing any tests, or there is one built-in test, right? So this comment makes it fail if it is lower than 80%, which is lower than 80%. So this is like 41%. And so basically they will go to this file, implement some more tests, and test it over here to add more coverage. Then submit the assignment. And when we submit the assignment, the same grade.sh will be executed. This time we are getting the file. Of course, the file name is different this time, right? The submitted file name. It will be pasted over here, and it will be executed, this code, and the same things will happen. If it is if the output has this pattern, this text somewhere, that means it's failed. If it is not, that means the coverage reached. So they didn't get the point. Obviously you can make it look better, because this is like directly getting this and trying to put it into HTML. What you can do is get all the tests, implement all the tests, right? Submit again, and this time while we can run the test over here for coverage, and this time it should be hopefully fine. Yes, there are no errors. It's 100% coverage. And let's see the result of this and call it a day. Yep, coverage reached. They get the 100%. So that's it. Thank you.